What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Horrorheads podcast. I am Rich Mallery here with my co-host Jerry Lourenco.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. Hot as fuck here today. Follow us on Instagram at horrorheadspodcast, or you can email us your love and hate at horrorheadspodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you're thinking, how we're doing. For those of you who are eagerly anticipating each episode as it drops every other week, I know it's been a little bit longer this time. I had to take a little bit of time as I was directing 2 feature films. I still have 2 more days of shooting left to go, starting again tomorrow. But yeah, it was a really good shoot. So I'm shooting, we talked about it last episode, but in case anyone missed that, I'm shooting a sci-fi horror erotic kind of thriller called Maidroid Origins, which is a sequel to a movie I did a couple years ago called Maidroid. And I'm also shooting this really dark, edgy LGBTQ thriller called Feral that I'm super excited about. The footage came out really good. It's going to be my masterpiece, I have a feeling. So super stoked about those. They're coming out in the fall. But we're here. We're back. We're back to our normal schedule now. And yeah, how you been, man?
Yeah, I did all right. I couldn't be more excited for those films to come out. I myself was on vacation for a bit, so it was perfect time for us to take a little break. I think when we started this, we never thought we'd get to a dozen episodes, so we're still amazed every single time. But yeah, ready to do it, ready to get some drinks on, have some fun, talk about some films.
Yeah, so tonight we're talking about 3 films. We're talking about a brand new film called In a Violent Nature. I keep fucking up that title. I actually got it correct this time, but I'll probably fuck it up later in the show. And then we have a special guest coming on later to talk about the original Wicker Man movie, as well as Midsommar, which I feel was probably inspired somewhat by Wicker Man. So who's the guest? Who we have coming on later?
So we have my friend Melissa Rose coming on in a little bit. She's super smart. She's I would say she's a horror film and literature expert, and she's definitely going to bring a very interesting perspective to tonight's show. So I think she's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll see how it goes.
And she's probably going to make us sound really dumb. She said she's an expert. We are not experts by any means.
So Rich and I both have like literature degrees, but for some reason hers is better. I don't know why. Whenever I talk to her, I'm just like, I don't think I went to class that day.
I definitely didn't go to class that day. It's probably so, your house instead of going to class.
Yeah. I was using you to source as my source reference for my papers, which is pretty funny. We used to do that a lot. Believe it or not, back then, before the internet, people, I would just use Rich as a source point in a paper as a point of reference, and no one could check it unless they went to the library, look for the book, try to find him. So we used to have a lot of fun in college.
Yeah, and we would just say, oh, I guess someone else took out that book. It's really popular. That's why you couldn't find it. Yeah, so you and I really haven't talked in a minute, and we didn't talk about Maxxxine yet, right? Have I told you about that?
Just briefly, I would love to hear your hot take on it.
I'll give you my hot take on it. So I actually saw it like a few weeks ago. I actually went to the premiere in LA, which was super fun. And I was thinking about talking about the movie today, and I was trying to remember it actually, because I feel like it's been so long since I've seen it. But okay, so my take on it, whatever you're expecting it to be, it's not. I don't know whatever I thought it was going to be, but it was absolutely like a completely different movie. It's a movie I'd never seen before. It's very, very different. He's definitely doing his own thing there. I didn't love the movie. I thought it was okay. I thought it had some cool points. It was interesting. I think, you go to see this movie, you want to see it for Mia Goth. I think she's great in it. I thought there was a lot of really cool artistic shots in it. There's like a whole meta, like movie within a movie kind of thing happening. There's not a lot of gore, but there are 2 things in particular that I'd never seen in a movie before and that were really gory. One is a guy's balls getting crushed, which was hysterical and gross at the same time. And it's actually funny, after the premiere, at the after party, they had specialty cocktails that were themed by the movie, and one of the drinks was called the Ball Crusher, and I don't want
that.
No, it was good. It was good. And then there's another scene later. I'm not going to spoil it, but there's actually a really cool kill later in the movie. What I really didn't like, though, is there is a twist at the end, which I thought made very little sense and was unnecessary and kind of like almost, I wouldn't say ruined the movie for me, but like when that happened, I was kind of like, really? Like was not necessary, and it was not the direction I thought it was going to go in. But look, it's decent enough. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again. Maybe I will once, but it is what it is. But if you go into it with an open, I would go into it with an open mind because again, it's nothing like X, it's nothing like Pearl, it's nothing like anything I'd seen before. It's a very 80s kind of thriller-ish movie. It's not a horror movie, like, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. When you see it, let me know what you think. But that's my thoughts on it. If I was like rated 0 to 5, I'd probably give it like a 3. Good enough. I was entertained, but it wasn't like incredible.
I'm definitely gonna check it out. I'll wait for it to stream. But I am looking forward to it. I thought I read somewhere that Ty West was inspired by that film that we used to watch all the time with that drill scene through the apartment floor or something like that.
Oh,
What was that
yes.
80s film? Can't think of the
Uh,
name of it, but
they talk about an American Psycho in the
yeah,
novel,
they
right?
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Body double, body
Yeah,
double.
Body Double. Is it similar to that? Would you say it's similar to that? Because I heard that it was loosely inspired by that.
I would say if you took that movie and made it now, yeah, I could definitely
Oh,
see the
okay.
body double
I'm
influence.
gonna check it.
Yeah, again, it's not bad. It's just I wasn't like this movie's great, and especially seeing in the theater and like at a premiere, you're already gonna like a movie kind of because you're in the vibe and it's super cool and like he did a really good intro of the movie. It was actually cool. The premiere was at Grumman's Chinese Theater, which actually features in the movie later, which is kind of cool. So it's like you're in like the theater that's on screen in the movie, which was kind of neat. I would
All right,
say the
that's cool.
highlight.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I would definitely say the highlight of my night though was at the after party and bumping into and almost knocking over a drunk Mia Goth. That was worth it just for that because she looked wasted. Yeah, so that's Maxxxine. Yeah, let me know what you think when you see it. Let's get to some drinking because I know we've been talking for a good 10 minutes and
Hell
I'm
yeah.
thirsty as hell. So tonight what I have
Daddy's getting
is
thirsty.
Daddy's getting thirsty. So I have something that I bought a while ago for an episode and then just didn't drink it for the episode. And I almost finished it. And I was like, oh shit, I better save it. It is called Noble Oak Double Oak Bourbon. It's bourbon whiskey finished with sherry oak staves. I have no idea what staves are. The one thing I will say about this that's interesting is I think I read that for every bottle you buy, they plant a tree. I think I read that somewhere. So that's kind of interesting. But I enjoyed it, so I'm gonna pour this. What do you got?
Well, tonight I pulled out a classic. You can see that,
Oh,
right?
Larceny. Wow, I haven't had that in
Larceny. Pulled out
forever.
some Larceny small batch, 92 proof. Pretty fiery, this bad boy. And I'm gonna pour into my glass. I'm gonna take a sip and give a couple notes on it. So,
Nice. This Noble Oak is 90 proof. All right, cheers.
oh yeah. Wow.
Describe it. What do you got?
This has a very nutty taste, which I don't remember it having.
Yeah, I don't
I
either.
think this Cuban glass is playing a very significant role. I think I normally drink this in a much smaller glass with crushed ice. I'm
Hmm.
getting a lot of like a very nutty taste and a little sweet kind of ending, but very heavy burn with that 92 proof.
You hold up that bottle again? Let me see it.
Yeah, I think it was always been small batch, right? Or no?
I don't know. I don't. I bought it so long ago. I don't
I'm
remember
starting to think now. I'm starting to wonder now if small batch is something different
because I don't remember it being
from
nutty at all. I
as
remember it being more almost like rye-ish.
no man, it's right there. I'm just tasted it again. I like it.
Interesting. So this Noble
What do you
Oak,
got there?
yeah, it's good. It's not like I wouldn't put it as something I would probably ever buy again. I kind of describe some things like this. It just tastes like I want to say grainy is like I don't know. There's something in it that I taste.
Mm.
It's like it reminds me of like a bullet where it's got that like it doesn't have that sweet caramel taste to a bourbon. It's got something more bitter in it, I guess.
Does it have that craft taste?
Yes, yeah, it's got a craft taste.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
probably really good in old fashioned, but
Mm,
yeah, it's got a craft taste to it. So, but it's all right. It's
I get
good.
it. I could imagine it. Yeah. Well, it sounds delicious. Do you have enough in there? Because I have some plans for tonight.
Oh fuck. Yeah, I do have enough. I have a well,
Okay. All right.
I don't know.
Great.
We'll find out. I guess we'll find out. All right, so that's the bourbon. Like, let's talk before we get our guest comes on. We're gonna talk about what's the name of the movie again?
In a violent nature.
In a Violent Nature. I'm gonna remember that. So, okay, I would give the plot of this movie. It just came out recently. I think it was in theater. Well, I know it was in theaters because I have a note on that, and now it's just on streaming now. So the plot of this movie is when a locket is removed from a collapsed fire tower in the woods, a vengeful spirit spurred on by a horrific 60-year-old crime named Johnny, who is a rotting corpse, is resurrected and becomes hellbent on getting the locket back. Okay, that's probably a lot more plot than I got out of watching the movie. So I was doing some research on this and reading what people thought about it, and a lot of people are really loving this movie. And I think I get why, because it is very different. I've never seen a movie shot like this before, and we'll get into that in a minute. However, like I personally, I hated this movie. I was so bored
Wow.
by it, and
I'm shocked you're saying that right now.
I absolutely bored. I mean, here's the thing of the movie, like, and I'm going to say this, like, I'm probably going to repeat this over and over again as we talk about this. I don't know the runtime. Just say the movie's 90 minutes. I would say 65 of those minutes are the back of a guy's head while he's walking through the woods. Like that's like the entire movie. And like after 5 minutes of this, I was completely bored. So like I turn on the movie and like, okay, there's a long opening shot of just really nothing, of just this locket that seemed to go on for like 3 minutes. I'm like, okay, I guess this is like some kind of art film. And then there's like 2 minutes of a guy coming out of a hole in the ground, like literally 2 minutes. I'm like, okay. Then 2 minutes of this guy looking at trees. Then 2 minutes of him walking through the woods. Like that's really all the movie was this like back of this Jason Voorhees looking guy's head as he walks through the woods. And it would have been a great short, I think, but a feature length movie, not for me. What did you like? You liked it? What did you
Wow.
like about it?
I liked it. I liked it a lot, man. I mean, like, what do you think like Jason was doing when he wasn't killing? You know, he was doing this. He was doing exactly this. So I think it was a really interesting perspective with having, you know, the camera basically follow the killer. And he was really, you know, the point of reference, you know, there was minimal character development, if any, because they weren't really the story. You know, the story was basically, you know, following this guy Johnny on his murdering spree. And I thought it was really cool. I thought it was like stripped down, it was raw. There was no like music track or anything like that. So basically you just heard like foliage rustling and murdering. I mean, that's sick, dude. I mean, I just I never really experienced anything like that, and it really brought me back to like honestly what a slasher film should be. So you know me, I know slashers aren't your favorite films.
I like them though. Like they're not my favorite, but I could appreciate a slasher.
You have to admit they really fell off in the last probably decade.
Oh yeah, I can't remember the last one I watched that I liked. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're just goofy. They really lost like that rawness. But when you think about like people when they first filmed the original Friday the 13th, or when they first filmed the original Halloween, they went there to make a film. You know, they didn't think they were doing something stupid. They didn't not dedicate themselves to it. They thought they were making a good movie, and that's kind of like the feeling I got from watching this. I felt like these people felt like they knew that they were doing something important, and they took it very seriously. And that's really what I liked about it. It yes, it's very, very thin. Yes, the action is spread out pretty far, and there is a lot of Ishtar, as we would say it. So, but it's what happens in between that, I think, that makes this like really, really interesting film. And I liked it a lot. I mean, this was a slow burning, gory, like it was like a gore fest, dude. Like when it hit, right?
Oh yeah, no, I mean the gore in the few kills that we get is gnarly. Like there's that one scene where I think it's like the girl doing yoga and he like puts like a hook through her stomach and then like pulls her head out of her like body somehow. And it was gross. And they did a great job with that for sure. Like I give them credit on the gore. And look, I give them credit for making this movie. Like you said, it is something I've never seen before, which I appreciate. So just to kind of talk about it for those who don't know, I know we kind of alluded to it. And yeah, the movie basically follows the killer the entire way. Not just when he's killing, though. It's like even when he's just walking around looking for shit to do, which again is an interesting concept. I think again for 90 minutes it falls flat because again the killer is not someone we really identify with or care about. Like we don't really know much about him other than he's just kind of wandering. And like you said, like what is Jason doing when he's not killing? Probably nothing, but I don't need to watch that. Like it kind of for me it takes away like there's nothing scary about it because we know where he is at all times. Like I think slashers can be scary because you don't know where the killer is coming from, right? Or like you're not sure when the next thing's going to happen. This, it's like we know he's right here. We're watching him. We're with him the entire time. So cool concept. I think again, it would have been a great 8 minute short, maybe, but a feature film. It fell off for me.
I mean, I'm with you. Not not scary, but brutal, you know. And what is different about this than say any other Friday the 13th that like you watched like 1,000 times? It has like every single element. It has a bunch of 20-something-year-old kids. They're going camping, they're in a cabin in the woods, they're drinking, they're smoking, they're alluding to having sex. They tell the folklore story around the fire about Johnny, and that's really no different than anything else. They had all those elements there, except we were just viewing it from like a different angle. And I thought that was like really, really interesting. I thought that part where in the beginning of the film where that one dude is kind of telling the story about the legend of Johnny and really what happened, and it was called like the White Pine Slaughter or something like that, where it was about a mining town where there was like a store owner, and everyone in the town hated him because he like really like kind of upped the charges on like all the goods that these poor miners had to buy. So they used to take it out on his son, who was like a special needs boy. And to get revenge on the store owner, they basically trick this boy to climb up this water tower, thinking that there were toys up there for him, and they basically scared him, and he fell off and he died. He comes back the next day, everyone's dead. Now that is a typical story. That is the Jason story. That is the sleepaway camp story. That is literally like every single story. What I thought was like super interesting is we're hearing that story from the view of the killer. So Johnny's basically listening to this story. And I just wonder if he wanted to like jump out and be like, that's not exactly how it went. I don't know if you guys got, but it's like he heard it. And like that's something we never think about. We never like whenever we watch like Friday the 13th, all stuff, we know that the killer is lurking, but we don't, I guess we never really took into account that maybe he's like 15 feet away. Maybe he's right there. Maybe he's listening to exactly what he's saying. He's creeping, and he's going to use that to his advantage, knowing like kind of like what they know. And again, I thought that was a really interesting perspective, and I liked it a lot. And when they weren't doing things like that, which I kind of took for like, it was like artistic shots. I really like the long shots. I like the above shots. I thought that was interesting. But then there was like filled in with these brutal, bloody kills. I mean, they were some of the most brutal kills I've ever seen, and some of them were throwaways, but I would say most of them, that's where they spent their time on. That's what they spent their budget on, and they looked great. They were just horrific, man.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you again. I can't take away from the kills in the movie. And I do think it's an interesting concept. I think there's a difference between being an interesting concept and being an entertaining one. And like what I mean by that is just again, the scenes just were too long. Like there one scene you talked about where the people are around the campfire and they kept doing this like 360 or not really like a 180-degree shot from one person to the other. But this scene, it went on for like 5 minutes, and I was so bored because number one, like I don't care about any of these characters. It was just too long. And I get it, like they're trying to show that the killer's just standing there watching these things and like as it unfolds and like, but I don't know. I wanted to fast forward through so much of this movie. Again, when things happened, like was cool, but there was so much nothing happening for too long. It's too long for me. I can't. Again, watching a guy walk for 5 minutes, I don't care. It's like watching someone play a video game that I'm not invested in. That's what it felt like to me.
Actually, you know what? It felt a lot like a video game. I felt like, we were the killer. We were kind of manipulating him, and he was like walking around trying to find, the campers and the people like that. I kind of like took it like that. I thought it was super cool, and I clearly not going to change your mind about it. I
No,
get
no.
it. You didn't like it. I really did like it, and I feel like honestly, I think this is going to change the way that people start making these types of films going forward. I think from this point on, people are going to take the slasher a little more seriously and try to make a better film, and try to make something more serious and something that like you're committed to, something that people could get behind and maybe be this divisive about it. It's like you hated it, I loved it. I mean, this is it. Like you and I mostly fall pretty close on the scale of what we like and don't like, but here we go. Here's a perfect example of I think why this movie is brilliant, because you absolutely hate it
I hated
and
it.
I want to watch it tomorrow. Like I want to
Wow.
watch it again. Yeah, like I'm excited about it. Like I love that monotony. I love the like mundane actions and him just walking and he was dragging that body with him, to like the fire station. I never saw like who like they never did that. They may have done that in other slashers, but they did it. You're right. They do things for a long time, but that's what changes it. You do it for a second, it's one thing. You're dragging a body for 5 minutes. You're like, oh fuck, man, this is horrific. What am I looking at? I'm looking at a guy dragging a dead body around the forest into a room. He throws it through a window. He throws it to open up doors. Like it just gets more like gruesome and horrific as it goes on. So to me, that I was thinking of it, not really looking for the action sequences, but kind of just like wow, this is brutal, and that's kind of the way I took it.
Yeah, and look, you're not alone. Like again, a lot of people are praising this movie, and a lot of people loved it. And I was expecting, I don't know what I was expecting, but I was like, okay, this is going to be something different. But again, like I just keep going back to, you could have an interesting concept, but if I'm not interested in the movie, like it just doesn't work for me. And again, this is just me. And I was bored very early on, so it was tough to win me back after the first 20 minutes. Like it had to do a lot to get me back invested, and I just felt like it was just more of the same for me. Again, I was shocked by how brutal the kills were. Like I cannot not give them credit for that. But yeah, I just, it's one thing to be artistic. It's another thing to make something that's for me rewatchable. But like you said, you could rewatch it again. So I'm just have a different point of view.
Yeah, I mean, like there were a lot of things that I definitely liked. I liked a lot of the kills. I like some of like
What
the
was your
other
favorite
things
kill
that
in
maybe
it?
like. Oh man, I think I liked when he got that ranger. I guess the ranger must have helped capture him last time. So he looked like he wanted to do a number on this guy. So once he like gets the ranger down, he drags him into that room where there's a log splitter,
Oh yeah, I
and
remember that.
he slowly, piece by piece, just basically removes the ranger's body parts. He starts with like an arm, a leg, and ultimately the head. And you can see like there's some real satisfaction when like the head just kind of pops off and Johnny just kind of looks at it for a second. He's like, yeah, that's what I wanted to do. Some of them were pretty lame. The girl in the water, I mean, they didn't really show anything. I mean, that was kind of weird. But what I did like is how, we know that he's supernatural. He basically just kind of walked into the water, and kind of like similar to like that zombie film, or
The Fulci one, you mean?
yeah, that, and like shockwaves where like they just like kind of walk underwater, then they just like kind of surface. That's kind of scary, man. I thought that was scary because I'm like, man, this guy could really just go anywhere. He doesn't really need to breathe. He doesn't need to worry about that. He just basically walked underneath the lake until he got to where he needed to go, and he just pulled her under. Which again, it was scary because we knew what he did, but they didn't really show anything. And to me, I felt like I chalked that up to maybe like a budget issue that they probably used a lot on some of these like real close up kills. But there's just a lot of things that I liked. I thought the killer was cool. I didn't think the mask looked as cool as it could have been, like because a lot of this was shot in the daytime. I just thought it would be a little more scarier, being that they knew they go shoot it in the light. Kind of looked a little off during the daytime. At night, it looked pretty scary, but during the day, I was like, I feel like they could have did a little more detail to it to weather it or beat it up a little bit. It looked like a guy wearing a helmet was essentially like it
Yeah,
to
I kind
me,
of felt like they didn't
you
even need
know.
to show it, right? Like I kind of felt like that took me away from it because again, most of the movie's the back of the guy's head, and then when they do show him, it's like, oh,
Yeah, and then when he did take his mask off and they show him, it's always disappointing. Like filmmakers, guys, when are you gonna learn? Don't take the mask off.
yeah,
Don't ever take the mask off. I'm gonna tell you right now what someone else is not gonna tell you. It is a letdown every single time, and I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Jason. I don't care if it's Michael Myers. I don't care who it is. You disappoint every single person because you're just like, oh, you know it's never what you wanted it to be. So keep the mask on. And if the strangers directors are listening to this, which they are because they heard we did the episode that's trending right now, they probably are listening. Please keep the mask on.
So it's interesting where I was reading about the movie, and apparently it started shooting in 2021. And it sounds what I read is they shot for about 4 weeks, which is pretty
Mm.
crazy that they shot 4 weeks on this movie. But something happened with the original actor they had playing the killer, where he had to drop out like a week and a half at the production for medical reasons, and they just had someone else put on, the outfit and be the Monster Man, but it just didn't match. So they ended up like reshooting 70% of the entire movie.
Oh,
They went
wow.
back, and that's why it took 3 years to come out, apparently, is because they couldn't find, like, they had to reshoot all of the killer scenes basically because they couldn't find somebody that would match it, which I think is, we talked about this a couple episodes ago, where you're just like, if they're just wearing a mask, like how hard is it to find an actor to do that? And it is. And I think I defended the point that there's little subtle movements or it's like a different thing being like an actor to emote without even seeing their face. And they ran into the same kind of problem here, where they thought, oh, anybody could just do it and be the killer, and it didn't work out that way. They need to actually recast and reshoot all of that stuff, which I thought was wild. But again, the fact that they spent that amount of time shooting this movie, I don't know if they shot every day, like maybe they just shot on weekends or something like that. But it's not like this is like the most beautiful looking movie. It's just a bunch of people walking through the woods. Like I feel like this could have been shot in a couple days. But that's me. Other than the gore scenes, I guarantee took a long time to do.
The gore was good, but I would say this felt a lot like a drone feature, like the follow me drone feature. You could just kind of like click a button on your drone and have it follow you. And it kind of felt like that. You could get an 8K camera, slap it on a drone and just have it follow you no matter where you go, or you're always like, you could set it up to be the focus that you how you want it, and you could just basically walk and have this thing follow you. So did they really sit there and shoot it the whole time, or I just wonder if they used a drone to capture a lot of that kind of like behind the killer footage, because it didn't feel like it bounced too much.
Yeah, it seemed pretty smooth for walking through the woods. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just feel like maybe there was a drone following him a lot, which is clever. I'm sure it saved a lot of money. If you own the drone and you own the camera, that you really don't need anything else. So it really felt like that at a lot of times. And when it wasn't following him, the last 10 minutes of the film, it follows the heroine, Chris, what was her name, and it switches basically from him. I guess he gets his locket back, and I think the ending was weak. So if you were disappointed by the film in the beginning, I was very disappointed in the film at the end, because I just thought like that last 10-15 minutes, like I'm like, what is going on here? Like we're just watching this girl Chris sitting in a pickup truck talking to a person we were just introduced, who picked her up on the side of the road. And I kept thinking that this person is going to have some insight to the story, going to give us some detail that we don't know. And she's basically just like telling her she's going to be okay and it's nice weather and stuff like that. It didn't add anything really to the film at all. And then it just kind of ends. And I was like, man, I mean, it keeps the door open, obviously, for a sequel, but I don't think it was a strong finish.
Yeah, it's funny. I read a couple of reviews that actually really liked the ending, and I completely was like, wow, I'm complete disagreement, because yeah, it was just literally 5, maybe longer minutes of this woman kind of giving like a nonsense monologue just while these two characters are driving, and the reviews that I read were like, oh, it just ups the suspense because you're expecting something to happen, but then nothing happens. So
It
like
happens.
if you're gonna like create tension and suspense, like it's gotta lead to something, I think. Because otherwise I'm like, why did I just sit for 10 minutes and watch this? Like I could have turned this movie off.
10 minutes. It was literally 10
Yeah,
minutes.
and
It
it
just
felt
went
like it
on.
too. And again, you keep expecting something to happen, and maybe some people think, oh, it's so brilliant because they like roped you in. But again, I was just like, I would have shut this movie off. I would have never stuck with it if I knew there was going to be no payoff. And yeah, I had a huge problem with that ending specifically. That again, it was a different kind of ending. Like he did something different, but being different doesn't necessarily mean good or entertaining, in my opinion. So yeah, I hated the ending, but again, I also was already, by that point, I was already done.
You're already checked out.
I checked out very early on in this movie. I think I actually wrote a
I,
note at the
I,
11-minute mark was when I checked out. I was just like, this is it.
that's so I actually ended up rewatching this on the 4th of July. So
You've watched it
Tuesday
twice.
night.
Damn.
Yeah, I watched it twice, and it was. But I wanted to like really, I've because I watched it a long time ago. I watched it when you first started filming,
Oh,
so
okay.
I was like, oh, I need to, watch this. I watched that actually before I went on vacation because I wanted to like, I was just excited to watch it, so I wanted to get it in, but I didn't really take notes or anything like that. But this time, I watched it on the 4th of July, and it was super super noisy in my neighborhood, so I actually had to have the closed caption on because the sound isn't that great at times because I guess it was intentional because we're supposed to be hearing it from the killer.
Yeah, the
So I
sound is
had the
awful. Yeah.
yeah, I had the closed caption on, and this was some freshman dialogue here. It was so bad, and I think if you don't hear what they're saying, it's probably better than if you actually read what they're actually saying. I was like, that can't be it. That's not it. And I was like, what the hell? It was is really really poor. A lot of it was like nonsensical. It didn't even really make sense. It's I don't even know if it's the way people that age would talk. So it was really poor, and I got to sit there and listen that last 10 minutes to this woman in the pickup and just telling this story about a bear. And I'm like, man, this sucks, man. I'm like, it's not a good story, it's not good dialogue. And it was super super disappointing. So not only hearing it but actually reading it word for word, so you kind of get their exact intention, I think it made it a little worse. So I wasn't a big fan of the dialogue, but then I think about it, I'm like, damn, I wonder if I put on the closed caption of like, an old slasher, it's not going to be brilliant, it's
No,
not
no.
Shakespeare.
It's really funny you said that too. Just to kind of wrap things up is when I was watching this movie, it's like 90 degrees here in LA, and I had a fan on really loud. And I remember they came to a point where I think it was around the campfire scene where I really couldn't hear them that well because again, the sound is not good. And I debated on putting on the captions, but I was just like, you know what? I don't give a shit. I don't even care what they're saying. Like, I'm so bored that it's irrelevant what they're saying. Like, they're not going to say anything that's going to change my mind. So I just like didn't hear for a while. I was just like, I don't really care.
Like you didn't miss anything, but
Yeah.
listen, overall, I like this film.
All right,
I
cool.
think I'm gonna
Well,
watch it a lot.
hey man, teach their
That's
own,
that's
right?
that's it. I'm gonna watch it 10 more times. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think this is gonna be my summer jam,
Oh,
and I think it's gonna be the next wave. So that's just my opinion. It's a humble opinion, but I really liked it.
okay. Well, you're gonna watch it 10 more times. I'm gonna watch it zero more times. And so I just saw our guest is in the waiting room, so
Oh,
let's
sweet.
wrap this up. And look, I'm gonna give it one bloody knife out of 0 to 5, and I'm giving it one because of the gore. I was gonna give it a 0, but the kills were pretty brutal and creative. And just to explain for new listeners coming in, is we do rate every film that we talk about here 0 to 5 bloody knives. And what we do is we play this long-standing drinking game where the number of bloody knives that I give a film is the number of sips Jerry needs to take of his drink, and vice versa. So luckily, Jerry only has to drink one sip. I am terrified by what he is going to give this movie because I'm a little sick still, and my ice just melted. So what do you got for me? 0 to 5.
Listen, I read a lot of reviews about this, and people were so like polarized by it, and I couldn't believe it. I thought you and me would be a little closer, but we're not. So you gave it a 1. I'm giving it 3.5 bloody knives. I liked
Okay.
it.
All right. Let's cheers to that. I'm going to
Cheers.
drink 3.5 seconds. You drink one.
That was just a sip.
And for those of you playing at home, hopefully you're all home safe drinking along. Feel free to drink with either one of us. Pick one, and that's your poison. So, all right. So that was In a Violent Nature, a film again I hated, Jerry loved. But we're excited to announce our guest is here. So Jerry, like, why don't you welcome in our special guest tonight?
Oh yeah. So our special guest tonight is Melissa Rose. What's going on, Melissa? How you doing?
Hey, I'm excited to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So for anyone out there, I kind of alluded to it before. Melissa's like a really good friend of mine. We met on Slack probably like 8 years ago, from another coworker. There was this like coworker, Rich, that I was talking to on Slack, and she was going to like this Asian like film festival. So, so I just hit her up and talk about some Asian horror, because I think she was like going to meet like Takashi Miki. And
Nice.
I was like, oh, maybe she's into like some some horror, and I was start talking to her, and she's like, maybe you should talk to the new girl, Melissa. She's really into horror movies. So I just kind of slacked her. I said, hey, I heard you like horror. And we've been friends since. So Melissa is a writer and artist. She's a horror film and literature expert, and she's also my number one horror trivia partner. So, I rely on her a lot in those critical moments of horror information. She's super intellectual, so she's definitely going to bring a different vibe tonight than maybe like you're used to hear from like me and Rich in our drunk talk. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. That's a good introduction.
Yeah, no problem. So, I mean, you heard the show before, I'm assuming. So, I'm just curious, why would you agree to come on this show?
Well, yeah, of course. I'm a listener of the show. I've listened to most of the episodes. You guys always make me laugh. I really enjoy them, so I figured I'd join in.
All right, you're definitely welcome here then. Praise is everything. So yeah, tell us how great we are and you could be a guest. That's our prerequisite.
Yeah, I have a super serious question now. Now on the show, who is better? Is it me and Rich, or is it Jamie Greffy, who is our guest?
Well, I won't say anybody's better than anybody else.
Oh, you heard that, Jamie?
I enjoyed all of the episodes that I've heard.
Yeah, and Jamie will be coming back on, I think it's September. So he's a fan favorite for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get to know, let's let the listeners know a little bit about you, Melissa. So I'm curious. I mean, you're into horror, obviously. How'd you get there? What was young Melissa doing? How'd you end up like, watching horror films? How did that become like one of your favorite genres?
Well, I was born on Friday the 13th in
Word.
October. So I feel like I was born to love it. Sort of grew up on horror. My first horror movie was Night of the Living Dead, and then when I was only around 7 or 8 years old. And instead of being scared by it, I just absolutely fell in love with them. Rented as many as I could from the public library, and the rest was history.
Oh, so were you doing this behind your parents' back? Like, getting these like, oh, mom, I'm gonna get a movie from the library, but it's really like a horror film. Is that what was going on?
Not really, because my mom also loves horror, so
What?
she kind of joined.
That's kind of cool. It's like Richard's mom. That's kind of cool.
I know. Like I went to see all of the Saw movies with my mom, actually. She's a huge fan of Saw.
Yeah, I grew up with us watching horror films together.
Oh, that's cool. See, my family was never into it. This was definitely like a solo thing for me, but I'm very jealous of people who have like horror family supportive people. So that's pretty cool. So I mean, so you tell us like what you started out. What are you watching right now? Like what are some of your favorite films right now? What are you into right now? What's happening with you currently?
I recently discovered the Blind Dead series. And I liked Night of the Seagulls a lot. I feel like not a lot of people have heard about that one, but it was really good. I watched the 2019 Creep Show, the TV series.
Oh, the series. Yeah. You were feeling that?
I liked it.
Yeah, I checked out a couple episodes. It didn't really like click with me, but I'm going to be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of the original films.
I watched some of the episodes and I kind of like they were hit or miss. Like some of them I was like, okay, this is kind of cool, and then some of them just didn't grab me. But it's always tough when you make these like comic book kind of adaptation kind of things to like really make them sell in 2024. But what I saw I liked.
So I know you're a huge fan of Evil Dead. We know that. What are some of your other favorites?
Favorites. Any Henenlotter films.
Like Frankenhooker, is that?
Yes, and Basket Case, Brain Damage.
Yeah, wow. See, I told you, Rich.
Like going deep. I haven't seen those movies in forever.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like much different from like what we're watching, and it's great. It's good to get like that different perspective. Sometimes when you dig pretty deep and get out of the mainstream, you discover a lot of amazing films. And I know she's always telling me about like something that she watched. I'm like, I gotta check that out now. So That's pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, is there anything going on in life that you would want the world to know, or anything happening? Because it is quite possible that you could go viral after appearing on this show. So, if there's anything that you want people to know, is anything going on?
Recently been getting back into sketching a little bit, but
Oh, okay.
I don't think I'll necessarily go viral. I'm not good at it. I'm not that good at it yet.
What do you like to sketch?
I recently was sketching like corpse hands.
That's pretty morbid, Melissa.
Yeah.
but but very cool. I don't want to ask like how you're looking at the subject. I hope there's not a corpse over there now in the background, is there?
Well, actually, I
Oh,
have a Wicker Man themed bedroom. And the corpse hand that I sort of modeled my recent drawing after is the Hand of Glory from Wicker Man. Yes, it's a prop. It's not real, of course, but
Oh.
yeah, I modeled it after that.
so you say. That's awesome. So yeah, I mean, all right, that's Melissa, everyone. I think we could probably like dive into some of these films. We'll get to know her a little bit better throughout the episode. And I think she's gonna bring a lot of intellect to these films. So I'm probably gonna sound pretty dumb, and she's gonna sound like an expert because these are some of her favorite films. So I think we're gonna dive into Wicker Man first. And Melissa, do you feel comfortable giving us the quick 1 minute plot of this film?
Sure. So it's about a policeman named Sergeant Howie. He's a super devout Christian. And he gets a letter about a missing girl on a isolated island called Summer Isle. And when he goes to the island to investigate it, the locals are acting really weird and saying they have no recollection of a missing girl. And he gets sort of mixed information about it. People saying that they never heard her name before. He even locates in a grave that's doesn't have her in it. It has her name, but it doesn't have her inside the grave. And as he's investigating, he starts to find out more about the pagan rituals on this island. And he keeps digging deeper, and he finds out that the crops failed. So he starts to believe that they're going to sacrifice this young girl. So he basically goes on a mission to try to rescue her. And during this, he's just so busy trying to be the hero that he doesn't even realize that they're essentially after him.
Yeah, I mean that's a great way to kick this off. And for me, I love the atmosphere of this film, and I really kind of like that small town island kind of vibe with all the townspeople and the locals. And I'm always into like films like where the locals know something and there's like this smart know-it-all guy. He's like kind of like so sure of himself. Meanwhile, he doesn't know that they're all plotting against him. And I really like that aspect of this film. Rich, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so right off the bat, I do want to try to not spoil the very end of this movie. And usually we spoil the shit out of these things, but for me, and I've seen this movie a bunch of times, the
Mhm.
first time I saw it, it was really special to me because the ending I was completely shocked by. Like I did not expect that to happen. It was definitely very different than anything I've seen. And now when I rewatch the movie, I still appreciate it, but it definitely loses a little bit knowing how it's going to end. So I want to make sure for the listeners out there that have not seen this, that they have that same kind of personal feeling that I had where they're getting that for the first time. Because the ending is like it is shocking. And it's and even when it's happening, you're like, okay, something different's gonna happen. Like this isn't gonna how it's gonna end. They're gonna, but it doesn't. So I just want to save that for people. Yeah. So again, there's a lot of things I do like about the film. I do love these kind of movies, like anything with cults and things like that. I get super into. I will say again, it's knowing how it's gonna end makes it not as interesting. I feel like every time I watch it, I do like it a little bit less, just because again, I've seen it before. But there are definitely things that I really love about it. I love kind of that detective story of him actually like learning more as it goes, and you're kind of like on this journey along with him because you just get dropped on this island with this guy, this very unlikable, at least to me, very unlikable character, and he knows nothing. and you're figuring out these little pieces, but then you find out that like all of the little pieces you were wrong. And I kind of really like this aspect of storytelling. I feel like they did a really good job. I think it's really well written.
I mean, he was a super dick. There's
Oh
absolutely
yeah.
no, debate about that. I mean, it was basically, he's right. The rest of the world is wrong. And I think it's that dichotomy that they play off of, throughout like the film. But I think would both of you agree that is this really a horror film until basically that last 10-15 minutes? Like you're kind of just watching, feels like a mystery. Would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's suspenseful for sure, because again, you have no idea where it's going. And I think that's what I appreciate about this movie. And again, it does get more difficult on rewatches because you already know, but anyone that can predict this movie going in cold, you can't. Like every 10 minutes, it's a completely different thing, which I really appreciate it. But yeah, I wouldn't say there's like horror or scary elements. However, it is creepy. Especially if you're going with the perspective of the detective who is ultra Christian and like conservative, and I believe he's a virgin. And for him to be dropped into this world with these people that are not people that we might normally associate with, some of us are, but like for him, this is a completely foreign world to him. So I think they do a good job of kind of tapping into that creepy vibe of it, where again, you don't know like what these people are all about. You kind of get inklings, but you don't know. Maybe they're all cannibals. Like you don't know what their thing is, other than they're not the normal, quote unquote, normal Christian 1973 or wherever movies came out person you would see in England. So it has horror elements for sure. Is it a straight horror film? I don't know, but it does have horror elements.
When you mentioned that he's a virgin, he is definitely. And what's interesting is that if he wasn't, they wouldn't have sacrificed him. They wanted that.
Do we know his age?
I don't think they say his exact age, but there were so many situations where they would have allowed him out, like they gave him so many outs and he didn't take any of them. When Brett Eklund's character, Willow, tries to seduce him, he doesn't go for it. Like there's so many situations where he could have escaped, where he wouldn't have been a good fit as a sacrifice, but he doesn't take it.
They're like kind of testing him to see if he'll take the bait and if he's actually like a worthwhile sacrifice. I actually never picked up on that. That's really interesting.
I don't know about him, but he's a stronger man than me because and I know Rich would have been breaking down that door.
Oh yeah. So I would have been like, Jesus, who?
That's it. I would have dug a hole underneath the wall to get in there.
I would have just what's going on. I would have joined that group on the island. Like, what religion are you guys practicing? Fine, done, in, whatever. Who do you want me to worship? This what God? The sun god? Cool. I'm good. I'm never leaving.
When he first leaves that inn and he goes outside, he kind of sees like that orgy taking place like out on the grounds. I mean, I just probably would just threw off my clothes and like ran, so get like what's going on, But I mean, he was a strong guy, and he foolishly to a fault followed his beliefs, and obviously he was a flawed character, and that's what caused him a lot of his issues. And I think it was an interesting character study of him, and I think probably that's really where I was spending most of my time, is just watching this character and hating this character and kind of being annoyed with him, like why is he so angry at this group of people? First of all, they're on an isolated island doing their own thing. They're clearly not hurting anyone that we know of. And, here he is trying to like be like that typical Christian, trying to push his beliefs, bring his religion to the savages almost, and show them how to be better people. So, I mean, I was just like busy being annoyed with him. I don't think they gave him much of a chance to leave though. But that's definitely an interesting take. And I think that Willow dancing naked scene rubbing against the wall, that was really unexpected. And it went on a really long time. And what was really unexpected is that they were singing. And I think me and Rich are kind of taken back by, is this a musical, Melissa? Would you say that this is a bit of a musical, because they did move the storyline along with the lyrics? Like the lyrics were pushing the story, and it felt like a musical. And that took me out of this film, because I was buying into it, and then there was a song, And I was like, what the hell is this?
There's a lot of songs. Yeah.
That's actually my favorite scene of the movie.
What?
I love that scene. Yeah, and I love that song too. I feel like
Do you know the
really,
words? Can you sing it? Can you, would you, like,
I'm
maybe on
not
your
really,
own? I'm not saying here, but on your own. Do you sing it when you're just chilling?
I do know all the words. I'm a really bad singer, though. You guys are not going to want to hear me sing.
Then you'll go
We're not going to
viral
make
for
you sing on
sure.
the show.
I just feel like that scene is a really, I have written in my notes that it's an elegant and eerie meeting call. There's something about it that's just, it's so sweet, seductive, soothing, and even a little creepy all at once. It almost sounds like a lullaby. And I think that's what I like about it. That sort of mixture of eerie and sweet combined. It makes it really an interesting song. There's actually, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a Sneaker Pimps version of that song
What?
called
No,
How Do.
really?
There is. Yeah. I love Trip Hop Joy.
Do you want to know something crazy? Rich and I were watching this on the same day at the same time, and I started talking to him. I was texting him about this scene, and he didn't believe me. And I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? I'm like, there's a naked woman and she's dancing for like 10 minutes and singing. There are multiple versions of this film. And in most of them, that scene actually doesn't exist. So what happened with that, Rich?
Yeah, so I have actually a few notes on that scene in particular because I had seen this movie many times and I remember that scene vividly because it is a standout scene. It does last a long time. But yeah, when I was watching this with Jerry, we were talking about like the amount of nudity in the film, and he mentioned the Willow scene, and like that scene didn't happen in the version that I have. There's actually a completely different scene in this other version, and the scene is the people downstairs in the bar are playing the song. And what happens is Christopher Lee brings a young boy to Willow's room for the young boy to sleep with Willow to become a man. And that's in a different version of the film that does not have the naked dancing scene. And I was like watching this, I'm like, what are you talking about? That hasn't happened. And then I went on, I think on Prime, and Prime had a different version that had that scene in. So it's a completely like same runtime basically, but a completely different scene for that. It must have been like a made for TV version or something that I had. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's funny because that scene is really iconic, and it was odd that there would be a version without it. Two notes I have on that scene is one, it apparently took 13 hours for them to shoot it, which to me seems wild that it was literally just her dancing for 13 hours. And while they were dancing it, they had a guy basically hitting a drum the whole time for her to keep the beat. Because I don't know if they were actually playing the song, they were just trying to keep the rhythm. So a guy had to literally beat a drum for 13 hours. And then the other note I have is the actress Britt Eklund was pregnant while they were shooting that scene, and she didn't want to be shot from the waist down. So they used a body double to get her butt. And apparently she did not know this was happening and found out and was pissed that like they had a different person's butt in that scene. And apparently now when people see her at conventions or whatever, and they want her to autograph like a photo of that scene, like she won't do it because it's not necessarily her. This is what I read on IMDb anyway. Who knows how true it is, but yeah.
It's definitely true that there are different versions. It's the final cut that has the scene in the beginning that you're talking about where Willow was presented with the young man. And in that scene, they have the song Gently Johnny. That's actually my other favorite song of the film. I think that scene is great. I liked how it portrays this really weird, almost communal aspect to the sexual encounter. Like it makes it where the community is participating in this odd sort of way. They're all sort of gathered while they're in the other room. And it's almost like it almost seems somber in a way and spiritual because they're very serious in the scene. The people while Gently Johnny is playing, they're just sort of looking up at the ceiling. And it's like this consensual voyeurism almost, where the community is sort of participating in this. They're sort of listening in and watching in. And she's not a passive spectacle by any means. She loves to be watched. She loves that sort of attention, and she loves to be on display. And I think that's what's really interesting because it sort of introduces Willow as a character in that scene.
Man, I did not see that version, but that is such an interesting take. And essentially, like the town is basically rooting for people to get some. Is that what you're basically saying, Melissa? Is that they're all just kind of making sure everyone's good? You know? Did you end up watching both versions, Rich, or you just
No,
picked it
so
up
what I
over
ended
the
up doing
one?
was like I got tired of like trying to find this nude scene that you talked about, and then I just switched versions and I just watched the Amazon one. I like started it over because I wasn't sure what else was going to be different, and I knew we would be talking about it, and I was like, I didn't want to be talking about a completely different movie that you're talking about while we're doing this. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say one thing I thought that was interesting about this movie too is the main character, the detective, never has like a character arc. He's basically the same throughout. Like he never learns anything really. He just kind of starts off one way and continues, which I thought was really interesting, especially as like the story is changing so dramatically throughout, but he does not change.
I mean, he basically is just like ignoring every single thing that's going on around him. He has like this superiority complex because he's, he's looking down at these people based on their beliefs, and he believes that his Christianity is far superior than anything weird that could be going on this island. And I think he just doesn't even look at them as like people. So he's not even interested in taking in of what's happening around him, and that obviously kind of leads to his downfall. Like he just, because he's not reading the room, he's not reading the signs, he's not picking up anything, because in his head he's the smartest guy in the room every single time. He's the detective, he's there to solve this crime. These people are just towny people. And I think it's that feeling that gets him into so much trouble. There were a lot of times he thought he was slick, when he does that escape. If you could kind of explain that scene, Melissa, where he gets captured and there is that hand sitting in the room, and what is that hand supposed to do? I had a hard time kind of picking up the exact details of what was going on there. But if you could kind of just walk us through that. But ultimately, the guy thought he was slick, and he ends up getting caught anyway. So just if you could kind of explain that a little bit, that scene I'm talking about.
Sure. So that is what they call the hand of glory. Basically, it's supposed to be the hand that was cut off of somebody that was hung, and it's supposed to have these magical powers that's supposed to render somebody motionless. So when they put it there, it's supposed to render him motionless. So there's a lot of theory, I guess, as to like why they could have been doing that. I've read a lot of things with people saying that they're doing it just because they know he's going to defy it. They know he's going to end up at the Wicker Man, and they know he's going to act on his goodwill and try to leave. Like they know he's awake, type
Mm.
of thing, like they're playing him. And I've seen other things say that they just want to render him motionless to get him to the Wicker Man more easily.
Okay, so they basically knew that it wasn't going to work, and he was going to escape. So they were always a couple steps ahead of him, which again is really kind of like the theme throughout this film. Is this sergeant just kind of ignoring all the red flags, and thinking that he's the smartest guy, when this entire island knows what's going on and he doesn't. So
Even the children are like smarter than him, right?
yeah,
Even the kids know what's going on.
every single person. I mean, he's going like, room to room, person to person. He's trying to like, ask questions at like the school, and even the kids know not to talk to like this outsider, and they're all on board. It's like everyone got an email the day before telling them what to do and what not to do. But it was the 70s, so the fact that everyone kind of played their part was really interesting. If we're not going to go into the ending, I mean, that's tough. But I mean, I think this film, I mean, for a 70s film with this dense of a plot and um storyline, I still think it was a really short film, and it didn't have a lot of like nothing going on. I mean, really the only thing that took me out, which I know is Melissa's favorite parts of the songs, that it kind of like sometimes like the songs kind of made me feel like I was watching like a TV movie at times. But I felt like that took away from like maybe this underlining tension that you could kind of feel was building, even though like everything seemed super normal. It was going at such a slow pace, like, man, but that's weird. You know, you just kept saying that to yourself. It's like, these people are nice, but it's weird. And the only thing that would break that is like the singing. So I just, I mean, I, what do you love about the singing? If you could kind of get into that, I mean, what is it?
I love it. I think it's great. I feel like every single song in some way informs the plot. In some way, there's meaning in every single song, I feel like even Willow's song, I feel like the lyrics are beautiful. I feel like that's just one of so many different intricacies in this film. Like there's so many different details. Every time I watch it, I'm always noticing something new.
Interesting that you say that. And again, I'm with Jerry, and the songs take me out of the movie. However, I will say I was not paying attention to the lyrics. And I was just, once a song, for me, it's just in general, a song starts and I kind of just zone out. I think when I watch this again, I will pay attention to lyrics, and maybe I'll appreciate the songs a little more because, like you said, they are pushing the story forward in a way that maybe I didn't realize. And I just always assumed it was just throwaway songs just to add music to the movie, because a lot of 70s movies do that, right? They have a lot of music, even if it's not a band playing it. They're like, music is very important in 70s movies, just like, especially songs, like just end up in a lot of these things. So I think maybe the next time I'm just going to like actually pay attention, and maybe I'll get some of that deeper meaning that eluded me. So
I mean, for me, it felt like when the songs came on, it felt like I was watching like Grease or like Hair or something like that. Now, these probably might be a little bit before your time, Melissa. She's a lot younger than us, everyone. So, but I don't know if you're familiar with those, but like those are like, you know, very, very similar. All of a sudden, like, you know, right in the middle of like the thick of the plot, someone bust out in a song and kind of explain like what's happening or what's going to happen next. And that's exactly what was happening in this film. And maybe this could be my issue, because I go in thinking that this is a strict horror film, and anything that kind of deviates from that, maybe I wasn't really open to, but clearly you're open to it and you enjoyed it. So maybe I viewed it wrong and I need to give it another watch, you know?
you know what? I was just thinking about it. Like the first time I watched this movie, and I really enjoyed it the very first time I watched it many years ago. And I don't think the songs bothered me then, because I was too busy trying to understand like what actually was going to happen, and was, like, okay, like there's a song, but like what's going on in this movie? And I think again, now that I know the plot, the ending, now I'm just kind of like, let's get to stuff happening. So, I think that might be it too, Jerry. It's that like now you're just trying to like, okay, I get it, right? Whereas before, maybe you watch it for the first time, and maybe you don't appreciate them as much because again, it's 70s music, and that's not really our thing. But maybe then it's a little different when you're just like waiting for this thing to happen, or like for the story to unfold, and you're kind of like more locked in. Whereas again, now I watch it, I'm just kind of waiting for the moments that I enjoy about the movie.
Definitely agree with that. So, Melissa, you said that every time you watch this film, you kind of discover something new. So I'm assuming that you just watched this recently. What's the next thing? What's the deeper level that you pulled out this time? From say you maybe missed it or didn't kind of lock into it the last time you watched it. And I'm gonna follow it up with another question. How many times have you watched this film?
I think what you guys are saying definitely makes sense. I think that it builds over time, because the first time I watched it, I didn't notice a lot of these things I'm talking about. And I also wasn't paying attention to the music as much, but I listen to the soundtrack sometimes. And, now I do pay attention to it more. And I feel like it's something that, like I said, builds over time. And then realize more, you grow to love it more. The most recent times that I watched it, I was thinking about sort of, I feel like it looks at like this sort of dismantling of rigid boundaries between humans and animals. So, like the animality of humans. I feel like the people on this island, I think that they want to be aligned with animals. They want to celebrate that. So, like in terms of like our natural primitive instincts as like the human animal. So like the animalistic, the untamed, feral, wild, free. I feel like they're celebrating that aspect. And earlier you were talking about Sergeant Howie's character. And that is, you know, this is the complete opposite of something that he would be on board with. So he views Christianity as civilized. And this is the complete opposite. So this is, you know, it's just this sort of war between the two. You know what I mean? It's two opposites that are going on in this film.
Man,
yeah, and I mean, they're
that is
wearing the
such a
animal
hot take.
masks during that parade, right? Where they're kind of symbolically becoming animals and celebrating them. I think talking about the dichotomy between, like, again, the rigid form of Christianity that the detective feels and what the people of Summer Isle believe. And it's interesting because, again, the police sergeant hates them for what they are. And it's the opposite
Right.
for the people on the island. Like, I don't think they have any, like, they're probably fine. Like, go ahead, worship Christ or whoever, like, that's irrelevant to us. And it just shows the difference between how religion can really affect people. And I think you really see it in, like, my favorite quote in the movie. It's Christopher Lee and the police sergeant are talking, and they look outside and there's all these people dancing naked around a fire. And the police sergeant is like trying to say how wrong this is and blah, blah, blah. And, like, you know, meanwhile, it's like, how is that wrong? It's just people dancing. But he's like, but they're naked. And Christopher Lee's like, yeah, of course they're naked. You know how dangerous it is to jump over a fire with clothes on? Like, I thought that was really funny. It's like, why would they have clothes on? That's stupid. You know, like, they get killed. Of course they got it. And I thought that was a really funny way to explain it.
I think this is a great segue. We've been talking about this film for quite a bit now. So, Melissa, I'm assuming that the 70s is one of your favorite horror decades. You seem to like the classics. You seem to like the 70s, the 80s. And it got me thinking about it because I'm like, you know, why did she pick a film from like the 70s? Why is this one of your favorite films? You know, it's not modern. Most people probably your age wouldn't get into a film that's probably this old. So I was like looking to see what else was out there. And that made me put together a little game
Okay.
that I would like to introduce right now, because we are having some great conversation here, but I don't know if there's enough drinking going on. So right now, I think would be a perfect time to introduce a game. And it's going to be really, really simple. And Melissa, you're going to be answering the questions, and Rich and I are going to be drinking based on your answers. So it's going to be super, super simple. First question is, Rich, are you ready to play? Are you ready to get some drinks in?
I am ready. How about everybody at
Okay.
home? Everyone listening at home, you guys got a new drink? Because you're all playing with us.
So yeah, definitely get your drinks ready. So Melissa, this is going to be a super simple game, and it's called Was It the 70s or the 80s?
Shit.
And that's it. Now, I'm going to name some horror films, and I'm going to ask you if it was from the 70s or 80s. Now, Rich and me are going to drink based upon whether your answers are right or wrong. And here's how it's going to work. Rich, I'm so sporting. I'm going to let you choose Melissa's answers, and you have to stick with that for the entirety of the game. So here's how it's going to go. You could say she's going to be right or she's going to be wrong. If you choose she's going to be right, every time she's right, I'll drink. But every time she's wrong, you drink. If you choose if she's wrong, then every time she's wrong, I'll drink. And every time she's right, you drink. So you just have to pick if you want to be positive and go with her, assuming that she knows all the answers and I'm going to do all the drinking. Or if you think that, you know, maybe it's going to be 50-50, or if you just want to have fun, whatever it is. So the first question is, yes, you have to decide whether she's going to be right or wrong.
You know what? I have faith in our guest, and based on everything I've heard from them about their in-depth analysis of Wicker Man, I am going to choose Melissa is right. So
okay,
don't let me down
every
here.
Time she's right, every time she's right, I'm going to drink.
I'm counting
every time
on you.
She's wrong, though, you're going to drink.
She's not going to get any wrong, though. She's not going to get any wrong. She's going to get them all right.
Listen, in the history of all our games, none of these have worked out for me, but I think I got a good selection of movies. So we'll see how we do. So you got it. If she's right, I drink. If she's wrong, you drink. Okay.
I have complete faith. Melissa. I don't even need this drink because she's not going to get it wrong. So
Are you ready, Melissa?
Yeah. So I'm really bad with memorizing you.
Oh,
Girl.
no, don't say
dude,
that. Oh,
dude, she's playing. She's my horror trivia partner. Would I choose someone who was bad? Come on. All right, Melissa. Is it 70s or 80s? I spit on your grave.
70s.
Ooh.
She's right.
All right, I feel
drink.
good. I feel good.
Is it 70s or 80s? Prom night.
80s.
She's right.
All right, I made the right choice.
Okay. Phantasm.
Oh, I feel like it's one of those cusp years. Is it 70s?
Oh, shit. She's right.
79.
All right. She's 3 for 3. Jerry is drinking a lot. Whoever is playing along with me is losing miserably right now. But it's right. It's gonna get tougher. It's gonna get tougher. I'm like weaning you guys in. I'm beating the hook here. All right, ready? The Beyond.
80s.
Shit. Right again.
Yeah, Jerry, you gotta stop making these games because you get fucked every time. Keep going.
You want to know what's really fucked up? If you want to know what's really fucked up, I have 2 games tonight. So after Midsommar, we have another one. I'm probably gonna lose that one too.
Shit.
You're getting away with murder, Rich. All right. Yeah, I'm lofting a softball right now. Ready? Halloween.
70s.
Yeah.
It's the best game I've ever played. This is
right.
awesome. I'm just chilling.
Okay, wait, hold on.
No, we're good. We're good. We can stop.
The Changeling.
Oh, I actually didn't like that film much. I think it's 80s.
You switch from 70s to 80s?
It's 80s.
Fucking got it right. You got it right.
1980.
I thought that one was boring.
I actually love that movie. It's one of my favorite movies, actually.
Yeah.
It's a good film. Yeah.
Yeah. I get why.
George C. Scott.
Yeah. I get why you might not like it.
He's
I
great.
love that movie.
All right. Final Exam. Just watched this last week.
Oh, I watched that this past summer. Final Exam. 70s.
You got it wrong. Rich finally drinks.
I've never seen that. What is that any good?
It's like weird. It takes place like in a school, and it's like all like these athletes, and they start getting killed. It's like a old slasher. A lot of nudity in it. Ton. Not just random shower scenes for 5 minutes. Shutter. Okay. Is it 70s or 80s? Funhouse.
Oh, 80s.
Shit. Right.
Me too, I think.
81, yeah. All right. Is it 70s or 80s? Tourist Trap.
Oh, I like that one. That's 70s.
Shit. All right. So you're doing too well. I'm about to switch it up. So take a break, Melissa. I'm going to give a few to Rich.
Oh, okay.
So same rules. If you're right, I drink. If you're wrong, you drink. So I got a couple for you. I think you got like 9 out of 10 right, Melissa, which is really fucking annoying. That's
impressive.
So I mean, out of all our guests, you did the best. So great job. Never inviting her again. Anyway, all right, Rich. Is it 70s or 80s? The Fog.
80s.
Fuck you, man.
You know me in years. I'm really good with years. It's like the one piece of information I can retain.
I'm running out of drink. I just poured before this game started. All right. Rolling the dice on this one. Drill or Killer?
70s.
Fuck you. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
The Omen Part 2.
Oh, fuck. First one was 76. I'm gonna say 80s.
Wrong.
Damn.
78.
Oh,
drink. Drink it. Yeah, you took 2 sips, dude. All right. Here comes the last movie. Jerry's favorite film in history. So if Rich doesn't know this, he doesn't get it right, then he doesn't really know me, and we're really not best friends. Piranha.
I'm gonna say 70s.
Yeah, right. 78.
All right. That
All
was
right.
fun.
Well, that was
I'm
the
sober.
70s, 80s. Yeah,
I'm completely
that was
sober.
pretty bad for me. And yeah, Rich is gonna have to take the lead from here because I'm fading after that. But yeah, I mean, where are we at here?
Oh,
So
so
I
yeah,
mean,
before we give our ratings, I had like two other notes that I just wanted to share, and these are just trivia items I found.
yeah, I
One
just threw that
is
game out in the middle of
yeah, no,
nothing. I
fuck it,
just
man.
kind of
Let's
threw it
move
in
on.
there. Yeah.
So one thing is when they shot the movie, they shot it, I believe, in the fall, and none of the trees and flowers were blooming. So they had to bring in trees and flowers to make it look like everything was blooming, which I thought was interesting.
I think it was May. Yeah.
When they shot it, no, I don't think so. I think it was October, I believe,
It was
because
supposed to be in May though,
oh,
right?
right. But they shot it in
It's the
October,
May Day.
November,
Yeah, it's like
and apparently it was so cold that in order to prevent people's breath from showing, they had the actors suck on ice cubes before they would deliver their lines, which I thought was interesting.
wait,
And then
how
the
long
other
would that
thing
last? That's
is,
really interesting.
yeah, right. So that must have been like, imagine that's freezing cold and you have to like suck on an ice cube. That had to be brutal. And the other thing is, I believe what I read, I don't know how true this is, but the budget was so low that a lot of people were unpaid, including Sir Christopher Lee, who liked this role so much and thinks it's his greatest role ever, worked for free, apparently. And again, I don't know how true that is, but that's something I read. But he does call this his favorite film, and he even paid for his own press tour to promote the movie, which I thought was really interesting. You don't see a lot of actors doing that. So that, especially one like him that was super famous at this point. Okay, all right. So let's wrap it up. Let's wrap up the Wicker Man. Let's give our ratings. So how we'll do this is I'll give my rating. Jerry will drink. Jerry will give his rating. I will drink, and then Melissa will give her rating, which I'm scared for, and Jerry and I will drink the number of seconds that she rates the movie. So I'm going to go first. I'm going to give I give it 3 out of 5 Bloody Knives. That's how I feel about it. I like the movie. Again, not one of my favorites. I think the first time I saw it, I probably would have given it a 4, but it does lose something for me every time. So that's 3 seconds for Jerry. What about you? What do you rate it?
All right. So I absolutely am right on par with you, which is so weird because we were so divergent on the last film. I'm gonna give this one a 3. I liked it. I probably missed a lot by not watching it over the last few years. I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna watch it again and really try to get into this film. So I'm gonna give it 3 with the hopes that one day I could bump it up to a 3.5. So I'm gonna give it a 3 now, and we should both take our sips and then we'll ask Melissa.
Cheers.
So cheers. Man,
Okay.
that's good stuff there.
All right. Now,
So
0
I'm
to 5.
really nervous.
0 to 5.
Really nervous.
And you
Yeah.
could pick a half. You could do 3.5, 4.5, like whatever you want to do. So what do you give this 0 to 5 Bloody Knives, 5 being the best, 0 being the worst?
5.
Damn, I knew it.
I
mean,
knew
you
it.
have a Wicker Man themed room, so I was expecting nothing less. All right, cheers to 5 seconds, everybody.
That was rough, taking 5 sips after miserably losing that drinking game, but we'll see how we do for the next one. So I think we should jump right into Midsommar because time is getting away from us tonight.
Oh yeah, no, it's already getting late, right? So yeah, we'll talk about Midsommar. And the reason why I thought we should do Midsommar is because when I first watched Midsommar, all I kept thinking was this is very similar to Wicker Man in terms of theme. And I think that actually the first time I watched Midsommar, it took me out of it because the whole time I kept thinking like, oh, it's just like the Wicker Man. It's just like the Wicker Man. And I didn't like it. And I think I didn't like it for that reason. And I didn't like it because I also really did not like the director's other film, Hereditary. And I just thought this was another really long, bloated, pretentious kind of movie. However, the second time I watched it, I fell in love with this movie. And every time I watch it, I like it more and I discover more new things. So I personally love Midsommar. And I will give the plot really quick. There is a woman named Danny who her family dies after her sister commits a group suicide where she kills the parents and herself. And she's distraught. Her boyfriend, Christian, is on the verge of breaking up with her, but cannot because he feels too bad for her. He is planning a trip to Sweden with some of his grad school buddies to study the Hag culture. I think they're called the Hag. I don't know. It's some culture in Sweden where they worship, pagan gods, I guess you would call it. And they all go, and Danny tags along, and some terrible shit happens to all of them, very similar to Wicker Man. That's kind of really the basic plot. what I do love about this movie is it's beautifully shot. It looks gorgeous. It really kind of pulls you into this other culture where again you see all different kinds of the rituals they do and just how they conduct their daily life over this 9-day festival. It just again it looks amazing. And one thing I will say about this movie, it is one of the only movies that I have ever seen that really captures what it is like to take hallucinogens. The way they portray it in the movie is so accurate to like what the feeling is. And I feel like so many movies have drugs or hallucinogens, and it's like it's clear that the people have never experienced them and are just saying what they read. It is like very clear to me that they captured that, and you feel like you're going on this journey with them. You're going on this trip, and they take drugs a lot in the movie, and you feel like you're right there with them. And even there's like one scene where they're doing like the maypole dance, and they're the two, Danny and this other character, are speaking gibberish, but they understand each other. And I know I've been really high and have talked gibberish and have completely been understood by people. And I was like, holy shit, I'd never seen that in a movie before. So I thought that was super cool. They get it right. And I don't know. I personally, I love this movie.
Yeah, I think this film is fantastic, and I also agree with you. I hated Ari Aster's first film, so I was assuming that this would be his sophomore slump. I think Hereditary is a horrible film, and you could email me or send me something on Instagram if you disagree, and I want you to explain why, because honestly, it's a shit movie and it's stupid and it's boring and there's like one good scene. So if you want to jump on a bandwagon, jump on this bandwagon, because recently it was so funny that we decided to do this film, and I guess just being the time of year, a lot of people started watching this film, so I started seeing this pop up a lot in like the the horror chats and things like that, and a lot of people are divisive about this film as well. Some of them love it, some of them hate it. I think this is a great film, and I think this really captures the pagan life and the cult life even more deeper than say Wicker Man did. And maybe because I seen this film more than I saw Wicker Man, and maybe because I connected a little bit more to this film just based on the visuals, because they pull you in right away. Film is 90% shot in the daytime, and you're
Yeah.
looking at some of the most beautiful scenery, but like yet you're looking at some horrific things happening, and it's like you don't know how you feel. And I think it's that kind of like pulls you in. And I'm gonna let Melissa weigh in a second, but I just want to say I want to go back to the beginning of this film where Danny's sister, she does that murder suicide where she kills her parents, and that Christian, and he just wanted to go on the boys trip. He wanted to dump her and not be in it. And there was a moment where he's in the bar and he gets the call from Danny, and I guess she kind of explains what happens. There's this scene that follows that where Christian is walking down the street and it's snowing, and he's on his way to Danny's apartment, and he fucking knows how deep this girl's mourning is going to be, and it's going to be long and it's going to be hard, and his heart is just not in it. And he just, like, you could tell he's like dreading walking into that apartment and what he's going to walk into because of how he feels her. I don't know why, man, but that just hit me as like so like authentic, kind of like the way you said he captured, taking like the mushroom tea and all that. This guy been through a situation like this to capture a scene like that, to kind of know how someone would act and feel walking into that situation. And to me, that's actually, it starts off that way. And that's like one of my favorite parts of this film, because it's like Danny suffered a travesty, but like we feel bad for him. It's almost like we don't even, she's kind of annoying, right, guys? I mean, in the beginning of the movie, she's kind of annoying, and we don't fall in love with her. Like, we kind of feel for this guy. And I would say it's not through like maybe halfway through the film that kind of reverses, but it's like, fuck, man, this poor guy. Like, that's kind of how you feel, right? And I thought the way that he captured that to make you feel different about the person whose entire family got wiped out, and to feel for him, I thought that was just brilliant. So Melissa, definitely weigh in on any thoughts you have about this, but that is definitely one of my favorite parts of this film.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely feel like all of that was super authentic in the way that they captured that. I thought the scene in the beginning with the tragedy with her parents was just absolutely gut-wrenching. Like
Mm.
the acting during that was really really good. Something that stood out to me throughout the film was the disorientation of it all, like how you guys were saying earlier, you are experiencing, you know, the sort of hallucinogenic aspect of it along with them. Like we as an audience are sort of participating in that. And I think that's what's interesting about it. Because it's sort of like dizzying and disorienting the camera techniques too. I feel like if you look in the background, the trees are always kind of like subtly moving. They look like they're breathing. Yeah. And even also towards the end in the May Queen scene, the flowers are also like subtly like pulsating and writhing. You know, so it looks like everything is sort of just subtly moving a little bit where it feels like we are also hallucinating along with her.
Yeah, it's hard and to blend that like reality and kind of like in drug induced kind of reality. Like they blend that so well, you almost don't know which one is happening and at what point. The only reference we have, if we see them like say drink some tea or take some drugs, other than that we have no clue where they are in their trip or if they're sober or if they're hallucinating. And that just like makes you it's like a bad narrator, I guess, right? Would you say that, where we don't know if like what they're telling us or what they're seeing is actually what's happening or how they're reacting to it is the right way. And I think that was super cool. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and they get you early on with those shots, right? Like there's that wonderful shot where she goes into the bathroom and then like opens a door and she's on the plane. Like it takes you from one to another. And then there's that shot they're driving and the camera flips upside down to really again pull you into that world. And there's lots of little techniques like that where again, and it is very similar to like a hallucinogenic trip where you're one place 1 second and then like all of a sudden you lose track of time and you're somewhere else. And they did a really good job of that throughout the movie. I think what's interesting about this movie, and every time I watch it, I have a different perspective, is the character of Christian, because it depends on who you talk to and what like their thoughts are. A lot of people are like, "Oh, he's this piece of shit. He gets what is coming to him, blah blah blah." And I do get the feeling he's not a good guy, just based on some other things, like he's going to steal this other guy's thesis, and he just seems like, you know, like you're kind of stringing this girl along, and he forgets her birthday, like all this stuff kind of happening. But also, like there is that thing where it's like, yeah, like how do you just you're going to break up with this person and then this happens, like how do you break up with them at that point? Like, and even the scene where, you know, there's that final scene where again there's one of the weirdest sex scenes ever where he goes off and cheats on Danny. However, you know, he is drugged. He is
I wouldn't
like,
say he cheated.
no, but you know, like a lot of people have that
Yeah.
perspective, and I think he's drugged at that point. He's not in his own reality. Like, you know, you go off on a journey and like you're not even sure what's happening, whether it's dream or nightmare. And so you kind of almost, not to like excuse that, but it wasn't like he was in his present frame of mind. It was like, oh, I'm gonna go like have sex with this girl now. He just kind of was pushed towards it in a way, and like he just kind of was there. In my opinion, anyway. I think some people might disagree. And then I think he's absolutely horrified at some point when he actually snaps back into reality, and that's when he like runs out of there. And one funny note I read is he originally like there's super long scene of him like running around naked, and like that's when he encounters all of the death and like the people that were murdered. And apparently in the script he was supposed to be clothed, but the actor thought it would be better and he'd be more vulnerable if he was nude. And I think it does work that way. It's like, it's probably one of the longest male nude scenes I've ever seen in a movie. And I can't stop thinking about how much he reminds me of Seth Rogen. So every time I see it, I think it's running around naked. But I mean, I thought it was really effective. Again, like you just have this thing happen to you where again, you're in this kind of ritual. You realize it's like fucked. You run out naked and then you're running around. Everybody's kind of gone. And then you see like a person there's like, you know, buried. You see just like a hand sticking out of the ground. And then you go into this other room and you see a guy like still breathing who's tied to like he's flying like a bird. His back is completely spread open, like he's on the verge of death. And you see that naked, like it's fucking horrifying. Like you're not safe. I thought that was so effective.
Yeah, and just to kind of touch on that point where you say that he went and had sex with Maya, I think that is like a huge theme throughout this film with each and every character that showed up in that commune. It's almost like there's like this unspoken, I don't want to say peer pressure, but some sort of like awkwardness or cult pressure being put on each one of these characters where they are making decisions that they wouldn't normally make. And it's either to kind of escape the awkwardness of turning down the situation, or kind of like feigning like politeness or something like that, because each character, no matter what the request was, they agreed to it, and they went along with it. So that guy that peed on the bush, I can't think of his name at the moment.
The most annoying character in the movie, though.
Yeah. So he knows that that was wrong, and he knows that he's kind of in trouble for it. So they just kind of like show up, and they're like, "Hey, why don't you come along with us?" And like, he knows he's in trouble. He knows what he did. He knows that they're looking down on him. Maybe he's like, "Okay, I'll do that." When Christian, he had really no choice but to go to that weird orgy where there's like these 12 women moaning along with him. Like, he had to do it. The same exact reason why Danny had to go and leave that situation to go bless the crops. It's like none of them wanted to do these things, but for some reason, I guess due to like that pressure of this group, that they still did them, and it put them all in dangerous situations. So I feel like that's kind of how they ended up there, because they were kind of ignoring the red flags, and they weren't talking to each other, and they weren't saying, "Hey, do you think this is weird?" They just said, "No, this is normal. This is what these people do." Like, their friend's missing, and what do? They all just go to bed and be like, "Oh, he must be with that girl." Does that seem right? Did any of that seem right? None of that seemed right, but yet they ignored it. So I think there's, I can't explain the feeling, but I feel like they were pressured into doing a lot of things that they didn't want to do.
Well, I also get the feeling they weren't really friends. Like, I think they like hung out together, but it seemed like none of them really liked each other. And they like, and I think they're all in a way problematic characters. Again, none of them are really good people. I wouldn't say they're necessarily bad people, but they're not good people. Like they're, again, they're clearly like going to use each other, or like they all just want to get ahead. But I do get what you're saying about, you're in this situation, right? You're in this place in the middle of nowhere, Sweden. You're, again, taking drugs constantly, and again, some horrific things happen. And like, you see that one suicide, the double suicide ritual that happens early, and now you're like, fuck, like, I'm terrified by what actually could go on here. So I do think they do go along with some stuff, just because, like, what else do? You got to wait. You can't leave yet. So you got to kind of stick with it.
Yeah, I think that first day that they're there, obviously the commune seems like normal. They're nice enough, but when the ceremony begins and that dinner scene, it seems kind of creepy.
Oh
You're
yeah,
like,
it's odd.
something's odd here, and there's like the older couple, and they're all of a sudden start making those weird noises, and you're like, all right, I don't know what's gonna happen. And then all of a sudden they start like that climb, and they start that ascent up that cliff, and you're like, man, what am I looking at here? And obviously they get to the top of the cliff, and it's some sort of ritual suicide, and it was probably one of the goriest moments of the film, because they slow it down right as they make impact. So I thought that was pretty crazy from Ari Aster, very similar to that big scene in Hereditary, where he slows it down to make you capture that gore and forces you as the viewer to look at it. But it's like, I'm gonna tell you the thing, their friend fucking Pele, whatever his name was,
Yeah.
he was a dick, man. He set them up the entire time. He was getting his cult points for bringing in these strangers, and he didn't give them a heads up to like what they may see, what they may witness. And suddenly now these people, like, I think they knew right at that moment that shit, we're in trouble. Like, this is not a normal thing. This is not like a normal religion. This is not a normal ceremony, that like shit's happening. Like, two people just killed themselves, and they had to kill one of them because they weren't dead. And no one really batted an eye. And that was just like it was like that moment where things really unravel. And I think that was really crazy.
I thought that scene was interesting too, because I felt like the effects in it, the gore that they show, really juxtaposes with the subdued colors surrounding it. Like, it's suddenly just like this cacophony of bright red in comparison to all these subdued, beautiful colors of the like gorgeous scenery around it. So I thought that was interesting. I also found it interesting how, like, when they realized that the elderly man wasn't actually dead, that they were going to put him out of his misery with the mallet, they, like, it was like they were smashing a pumpkin. That was a little excessive, like that. At first, you see a guy with a mallet and you're like, okay, what the fuck is going to happen here? And then all of a sudden they're just whacking him like a pumpkin. And I felt like that was really excessive, where they were almost sort of taking out aggression, and it's just sort of breaks the silence of the beautiful scenery around it. That's the way I took that scene.
I mean, was that the best thing they could have chose to kind of
It was
end
giant.
his life? It was a wooden mallet, though. I mean, someone's suffering, and that's what you came up with, like a.
It was like Looney Tunes.
I don't know.
That's what it made me think of, like a giant cartoon mallet.
Everyone took a shot with it. It wasn't even just like one person. Everyone was kind of getting in there, and yeah, his head looked like a pumpkin.
Yeah, they smash it multiple times. It's not just once. It's like they want the gore. They keep smashing it more after that.
Oh yeah, I mean it was like mashed potatoes. After that, it was gross, man. It's like, good thing that dinner, that dinner really sucked, that no one like threw up or anything like that. And that's really where we start like understanding the character of Pele, because at first, he's the nice guy. He wants to introduce you to his family. He wants you to witness this beautiful celebration that they celebrate every single year in May. But yet, little by little, you could see he's saying little things and he's doing little things that are, if this group didn't really care for each other, if they weren't really friends, he was definitely being a wedge and pushing them all away. Like he gave the information about the thesis to both those guys at the same time to definitely make them competitive. He definitely brought up that Christian didn't give Danny a birthday gift, and yet he did. He remembered. He's got your back. He's the good guy, but yet at the same time, he didn't give you a heads up that two people were going to kill themselves after dinner. So, I mean, it's such a crazy, evil character. And like, you don't really notice him, which is the funny part. You don't really notice him until like the end of the film, where like, this guy was pulling all the fucking strings, and I mean, he was bad. I mean, he was basically kind of influencing and trying to manipulate Danny and really trying to pull the strings for everyone. And it worked. I mean, it worked to perfection for him. They definitely, I feel like they did this before, and it kind of felt like that. Like each year they had to bring in a new crop of people to kind of go through this. And I think that with the beautiful surroundings just makes it such a sick film. I mean, it's just so sick.
Yeah, and it's funny how you said that, because I didn't really pick up on that, I don't think, till this recent watch, about how like overly nice and like innocent Pele seems. Like he just seems like he's just going along with it, right? But you're right, like the whole time, like this was planned probably months before they even got there. He probably became friends with them just for that reason, because he knew he was going to bring them there, which again is completely evil. And it's like, you wonder if, like, because Danny ended up being their May Queen, right? Like, was he part of like bringing her? Like, was she always part of the plan to bring, or was he just going to bring the dudes? Like, I wonder like what other things were going on there to like, that he maybe helped manipulate getting her there also. Like maybe he just knew that like there's no way she's not going to come. You just don't know. Yeah, but like probably one of the most evil characters, just based on how you don't even notice him. Like you said, he's just kind of like, he's like you're not even concerned with him. He's like, fine, right? You're worried about all these other people. And meanwhile, the real devil is right here.
You actually like him more than everyone else, because you're like, look, man, he's just trying to like make everyone comfortable and fit in and happy. But no, man, he's completely pulling the strings. And I mean, Danny winning that May Queen thing, that was a setup. You saw it right a split second, is those when the three girls were dancing, you saw those two girls like look at each other, and then all of a sudden they bumped into each other, and then they both fell down. I mean, it was a setup from the start that Danny was 100% going to be the May Queen, and that was really going to set the rest of these events off. Thinking about, again, to that big sex scene with Christian, while it's going on and she's kind of blessing the harvest, she's on a horse, and this place is massive. Where do they drop her off? They drop her off literally in front of the orgy. Like they making like, and she's like, what's going on there? And like, don't worry about what's going on in there. You know, it's like they literally could have dropped her off anywhere, but yet they dropped her off right where they knew that she was going to see and hear what was going on. Again, manipulating her and driving that wedge and separating this group of people. And I again, this is all like kind of based on like, you know, Pele and his family's plans. And I thought they were just like, you know, what an evil bunch. And again, very similar to Wicker Man, where like the locals kind of know what's going on and the smart intellectual outsiders don't have a clue.
I feel like they were definitely very similar. There were a lot of similarities, especially in terms of the scene with Maya and Christian too. That communal aspect of that sex scene. And also like what I thought was really sort of creepy and interesting was like the mimicking of the sounds. Like they all tend to feel emotions together and everybody's mimicking the sounds they're making. And then it happens later. Well, actually, it happens during the suicide scene in the beginning too. And later when Danny's crying after she sees what happens, the whole community is sort of mimicking these sounds. That was really interesting too.
I mean, it was kind of sexy, I think, when, you know, all those women were kind of moaning along. It makes you think, like, Rich, if you were in that situation, I mean, would you get into that? You know, like when everyone
well,
kind of just
I've
watching,
been
kind
in
of
that
moaning
situation, and
all right.
yes, I did.
Oh, you have. Then I have a question for you, since you say that. Has an old lady ever got behind you and start pushing you to make sure you really get in there?
I mean, I had
like
to finish.
This film?
Like it wasn't happening, and I needed help.
Because to me, that was like one of the funniest parts of this film, and where I didn't pick up a lot of the humor in Wicker Man. Some of the humor that they were very similar to Wicker Man kind of shown through in this film a little bit more. And I think that was probably the funniest moment, because you're just like, anyone watching that would just be like, what the fuck? Like you just had to laugh. Like she just starts pushing the guy and
She's
you're
like,
like,
hurry up,
"Get in there,
hurry up.
get in there, too." And it was actually pretty funny. I mean, tough price to pay, but I mean,
Yeah.
you know, he had a good moment. I think that's something he would have talked about if he made it home.
Yeah, and just to, I know we'll wrap it up because it's getting late. I know you have another game plan. The one thing I will say about this movie, it's similar to Wicker Man. It's the people literally are fucking with them the whole time. Like everything is foreshadowed. Like there's that scene they walk by the cage with the bear, and they're like, "Is no one gonna acknowledge the bear?" And he's like, "What? That's just a bear." Like, and that plays in later at the very end of the movie, and like you know, all the tapestries basically like show you everything that's gonna happen to all of these people. Like, so it's right in front of their face. Like what is like their end going to be, and none of them pick up on it. And there's even like again subtle things throughout where they'll say certain things, and you know, it's clearly like foreshadowing again, like that they're going to get killed, and they just don't even notice it. It's like there's a lot of that throughout the movie, which I think is brilliant.
I know we didn't get into the ending much of Wicker Man, but I would say that this film had an extremely similar ending, if not exactly
Absolutely
the same ending as Wicker Man. I think what we can talk about, though, if we don't want to spoil the ending, which I have no problem spoiling the ending. It's not like really a new film, but I'll leave that up to you two. But I think, you know, really the big moment of this film is when Danny needs to choose, you know, the sacrifice, and it's really between a stranger and her boyfriend. Really, who's going to die? And she surprisingly, which I don't know if we could have predicted that earlier on, but she chooses her boyfriend to die. And I mean, that just shows like this slow manipulation and that breakdown of like kind of like mental health and religious extremes and brainwashing, and really how trauma could spark like almost like this path to insanity, and group hysteria can like alter your vision of right and wrong. And I think that all kind of like culminates like right at the ending of this film. And I don't know if you saw it. Like, I don't know if you saw it in the bit. Like, you always look at Danny as like, all right, she's the good one. She's going to do the right thing. But then she gets caught right up into like this cult, and it works. It works on her. And I'm just curious what you all think about that.
Yeah, I think there's got to be more to her than we actually get to see. And I know there's a director's cut that has like another half hour in the movie, and there is a lot more scenes before they get to Sweden of the actual relationship. But no matter what Christian did, and like again, not saying he's a good person or not, or was even good to her, like I don't think he did anything that should be punishable by a violent,
No.
horrible death. Like, okay, like, I get it, you're pissed that like he fucked this other girl, but like to have that happen to him, like that's extreme. So and like I know he wasn't great to her, but he wasn't like abusive or like a complete piece of shit, mate. And so there must be something else there. Either it's again something with her backstory that we just don't know or didn't pick up on, or something with their relationship. But it is pretty extreme because yeah, I agree. I was shocked by that too, that she would pick him over this again stranger, when again, like, the strangers are the ones who invited you here to make this thing happen. And Christian, like, he wasn't great to you, but again, yeah. So for me, there's something else there. And maybe again, maybe it's just her own, maybe there's something not necessarily right with her, which would make sense, right? If her sister had mental illness, like it wouldn't be shocking that she did as well. Or just the trauma just pushed her over the edge and now she's a completely different person. But yeah, like it was shocking to me.
Definitely. And I think this is a perfect time to throw out my second drinking game right before
All
we wrap this
right,
up.
let's do it.
So yeah, I mean, we chatted quite a bit tonight, and hopefully Rich could pare this down a bit in editing. But I think we got into some really good conversations. So Melissa, I was thinking, to me, Midsommar, it's like an instant classic, right? I mean, it's like this guy's second film, and it's such a good film. And this got me thinking, is it because of like there was just low competition of that year? And like, why did this get like so much hype? Why were so many people like into this film? So really what I wanted to do is I wanted to see what else came out that year. So Midsommar came out at 2019, which isn't that long ago. And I would say this is already a bona fide classic film. And people may not like it, or they may love it, but it's a classic. And people are going to talk about this film for the next 30, 40 years, without a doubt. Same way we talk about like films in the 70s and 80s. So I have a little drinking game here that me and Rich are about to play. And it's really, really simple. And it's called Was It 2019? And it's going to work the same exact way as the last game, where Rich is going to choose a side. He's going to be positive or negative. He's going to choose whether you're right or wrong. And he's going to stick with that for the entirety of the game. And all you have to do is guess if a movie was 2019 or not. And that's all you have to do. Obviously, depending on Rich's choice, one of us is going to drink. So are you ready to play?
Let's do it.
All right, Rich, what are you choosing? Is Melissa going to nail 2019 or not?
So this is tough because Melissa and I go way back.
2019 is tough.
and she did right by me and really hooked me up. However,
she got 9 out of 10, dude.
She got 9 out of 10. However, she did say something troubling earlier, that she has a hard time with years. And since we're pinpointing it to one specific year, not a decade, I am sorry, Melissa, but I'm going to be negative, and I'm going to say Jerry can drink when you get them right. I will drink when you wait. I'm sorry. What am I saying? Now I'm thinking you're getting them wrong. Okay, when you get them wrong,
when she gets them wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. I'm like, what the fuck am I talking about?
Okay.
Just tell me when to drink. I don't even know.
I get
All
it.
right, you got it. I don't got it.
I drank way more than you, and yet I understand.
I have no idea what we're doing. Right? Yeah. Okay. All right. So just you tell me when I drink.
All right.
I'll figure it out.
All right. Listen, I'm going to tell you when to drink, and Melissa, all you have to tell us is if this movie came out in 2019 or not. That's it. That's all you have to do.
Okay. She gets it right.
Here
I drink. She gets
Ready?
it wrong. You drink. Got it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So you get it right. Yes, correct. Okay. Yes. Okay. All right. Here we go. And everyone should know the answer to this first one because it was in one of our episodes. Here we go. First movie, The Strangers, Pray at Night.
2019.
Wrong. I got a drink. Melissa, why are you doing me wrong? I have no ice. All right. Next movie. One of my favorites. I wear the shirt often. Haunt.
Not 2019.
Got it wrong again.
Oh.
I'm drinking. I have a bad feeling about this. Okay, ready? The Lodge.
I haven't seen that. Let's go with 2019.
Drink, Rich. She got it right. All right. How do you all like Gasper? No. Climax.
Huge fan. Love that movie.
I really liked that one, but I don't know the year. Let's go 2019.
Damn it, you're wrong. 2018.
Very
This is
close.
fun.
though.
I could do this all night. This is great.
They're all. I want you both to know they're all gonna be very close. I'm not gonna pick a movie that's a decade off, so you have to know the year, yeah, or just guess.
All right, I'm going
ready?
at the bottle now because I'm out of ice.
There you go. Ready? Us.
2019.
Yes. Drink it out of the bottle, dude. Okay, ready for this one, Melissa? Hellfest.
Oh, we watched that, right? I think 2019.
No, wrong. 2018. All right. Here we go. Ready? This is a big film. The Invisible Man.
Not 2019.
Yes. Drink up out of the bottle, dude. All right. Who liked this film coming up? Ready? Titan.
I did. I like that one. If I'm gonna know the year though, I think it is 2019 though. Yeah.
No, it's not. Wrong.
I would say it falls apart for me, but I like the first half.
Yeah. I think you need to focus on like COVID, Melissa, and what you were doing pre and during. And I think that will help you figure out which one of these movies you're watching while
Don't
you're
give her
sitting by
hints.
yourself. No, I need some help here, dude. I'm losing. So, okay, you ready? Ready or not?
2019.
Drink it up.
Ugh.
All right. Children of the Corn remake.
Oh, I just watched that a week or two ago. Yeah, 2019?
No.
No?
Damn it. I'm getting so drunk here. Not being a
Tuesday
very
night,
good host.
baby. Tuesday night.
All right. So we're going to give Melissa a break, and I got a couple for Rich, which I think he could easily answer, but we're going to find out. So there's just a couple, and then we're going to wrap it up. So
All right, let's do it.
we went pretty late tonight. It was a lot of fun, but here we go. I got a couple for you. Are you ready, Rich?
Let's do it.
Saint Maud.
I think it's 2020. So I'm going to say no.
It's 2019. You got
Damn.
it wrong.
I did like that movie,
Okay.
though. That movie was pretty cool.
All right. Ready? Bliss.
I'll be honest, I don't even know what movie that is. I'm going to say no,
Not 2019.
not 2019.
You got that right.
Whew.
No, wait. Sorry. It is 2019.
Oh, okay. I've
Sorry.
never even heard of
Okay.
it.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Drink again. I'm sorry. See what happens here, Melissa? Like when you get towards the end of the night here,
It falls
we don't
apart.
even know the rules of our own. This is really the first time we're trying to do 2 games in one night. All right. There's one left, dude. And we're going to do a big bet on this one since it's the last thing we're doing for the night. We're going to do 1 to 3 sips.
3, baby. Go big.
And, gonna go 3. Okay. So if you get it right, I'm going to drink. You get it wrong, you drink.
Okay.
Here we go. And we were just talking about this dude. So we're about to find out. Mandy.
Oh, one of my favorite movies. I'm going to say 2019.
2018.
Damn.
Woo! All right.
I love that.
Man,
movie.
that was brutal. That was a brutal game. And yeah, I mean, we didn't get to talk about Midsommar as much as I thought we would be able to, but we went pretty long. So I think we should just probably get into the ratings.
Yeah, let's do it.
And wrap it up. Yeah. All right. So you all know the rules. So let's just do it the way we're gonna do it. So Rich will go, I'll go, then Melissa will go.
Cool. So a lot of people like listen to this podcast and they talk to me about it, and they always say like, what is a 5 bloody knife movie? Because we haven't given anything 5 yet, you and I personally. And I had a hard time thinking of what is a 5 bloody knife movie. And I will say, after watching this again for probably the 12th time, this for me is 5. I think it's flawless. 5 bloody knives. And that's the first time I've given that to a movie, and might be the last. I don't know. But I think this movie's, I can't think of one thing that I would say negative about it. So I'm giving it a 5 and I'm sticking with it.
I mean, I'm super impressed that you gave this 5. It's definitely the first time that you've done it. The first time I think I've ever heard you do it in the history of our relationship. I'm really disappointed I have to take 5 sips.
That also kind of helped make my decision better. But no, I again,
wow.
If I can't think of anything wrong with a movie and I love it, I got to give it a 5. There's not one thing I would do different. There's like nothing I would change about it.
The
Which is odd
visuals
for me
are
to say a 2.5 hour movie is
yeah.
perfect because I hate long movies. I like have a hard time with that. So for me to like it this much and it's that long is something. So yeah, 5. What about you?
I'm with you. I think this movie is beautifully shot. I mean, the visuals with the background versus the mayhem going on in reality and all that. I mean, it's gorgeous and I love it. It's not 5. It's not 5 for me. It's a good film. There is some Ishtar in this film. They probably could have cut a half hour, I think, out of it. But I hate Ari Aster. I didn't think he was good until I saw this film, you know? So it also helped me kind of understand him more as a director and appreciate him a lot more. So I'm kind of like on the fence with this. So I'm not giving it a 5, giving it a 4.5.
Oh, okay. That's pretty solid, man. That's
So let's cheers to that, and then we're gonna get Melissa's rating in a second, which I'm nervous.
That's right. Oh, I forgot you were here. All right, cheers.
I think she liked it, but that's it.
Oh my god, I'm drooling. Yeah, maybe we won't have the video on this because I just drooled all over myself.
Yeah, I'll get to tell you something. A couple of weeks ago, when I asked Melissa to come on the show, she's like, "Are you guys really drinking?" So I'm gonna let her answer that question right now and let the audience know if we're really drinking during this the shoot.
Yes, you are.
Oh.
You get it now, right? You get it. So like she might not.
I see it.
I don't think she believed that we drank that much and still talked and still kind of like moved on the show. So
what are we saying? I don't even know. Where am I?
I can't even feel my teeth. So Melissa, to wrap this up, what do you rate Midsommar?
4.
Oh, okay. We liked it more. Okay.
That's strong. That's strong.
All right. You ready? Hold on. I need a breath.
Let me get into the mic here. Let's get that ready.
All right.
Get that ASMR.
Oh, this is so gross. More. Oh, it's like the end of the bottle.
So this is real,
and it's probably all backwash at this point since I've been drinking out the bottle. I was gnarly.
Man, so now you see how the sausage is made, Melissa, and it's not pretty.
No.
So what's gonna happen is Richard's gonna take this in post, and he's gonna make us sound amazing. So
I don't know how.
this is the this is the reality. It might have been too ambitious to do 2 drinking games in one episode, but I have to say it was an absolute delight having you on the show. You brought such intellect and such a different voice to us, and we really appreciated you being here. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I loved hearing your perspectives on it as well, and thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for hanging.
So
we had fun too.
If people want to connect with you in any way, they want to check out your artwork, they want to talk about films, they want to talk about anything at all, literature with you, because we didn't get into your deep literature background. And before you came on, I made a quick announcement that we're all like literature majors, and for some reason we feel like you took the classes that we didn't because you're just so much more elevated than us. But we found that. So if people want to connect with you, how should they find you? How should they find you, Melissa?
You can find me on Instagram, melissaroseamy.
Great. So you guys got that. Melissaroseamy, hit her up if you want to talk art, if you want to talk literature, if you want to talk some horror films, you want to talk metal music. She's into all that shit.
Cool. So next episode, we're not sure exactly what we're going to talk about. We may or may not have another guest on. We were waiting for them to confirm. If not, we'll figure something out. But yeah, you can find us on Instagram at horrorheadspodcast, or again, email us what you think about this episode or anything else you want to say at horrorheadspodcast@gmail.com. Again, thank you, Melissa. This was a blast. I am really fucked up now, unfortunately, and yeah, I don't know what's going to happen to me tonight. Anyway, have a good night, everybody.
Yeah. Cheers, everyone. Bye.